Oatmeal raisin cookies. They're so good. What? I just don't know what mead to make. What can I do? Hey, this is Man-Made Mead. We are making another beer, basically. So this is going to be, if you saw just that little intro part, I'm inspired by a oatmeal raisin cookie. I think it'd be a really interesting beer, and so I had the idea in my head to try and do something along that lines. So what I did is I went and found a kit, not for oatmeal raisin or anything, but for an oatmeal stout. Now, I thought, okay, I can add, of course, oatmeal is a big component of this, but I can also add the rest of the ingredients. I love these kits from Brewer's Best because they're super easy to use, frankly. You don't have to try very hard to figure out what to put into them. So in this kit, because it's an oatmeal stout, we have flaked oats, a pound of that. We have about a pound of crushed chocolate, malt, and crushed biscuit, which is both of them. It's kind of, you can see it's split in color-wise. Then there is a crushed 2-row pale wheat, or malt, excuse me. And so these will all be steeped. Steep to convert is what we use and think about in the world of beer making, because then we put all of these into these bags, basically, and these bags will be what we steep with, and we allow the boil to absorb all of their flavors. So those are the crushed biscuit and oats and all that. Then we have our other things like dried malt. This is a dark dry malt, and I also have, this is a liquid pure malt extract, only one of these. So those are all those main ingredients. El Dorado pellets, alpha acid. So this is part of a little bit of our hops, a little bit of that extra roundness. And then they have included a Windsor Lallemand yeast packet. So I will, of course, include all the ingredients here. But the things I'm adding to make it into the oatmeal raisin are really, of course, raisins. Now, raisins are traditionally, people think, okay, use them as a way to provide nutrients to your yeast, to your whatever, and they're not a great source of nutrients. Instead, I want to use the flavor. So I have a bunch of raisins here. This is about 2 pounds of raisins. Excuse me, and I don't know if I'll use them all. I really need to test and see how much flavor they add. I'm also going to add a little vanilla. It said on a recipe I found one time for a different beer, it was vanilla beans, and I don't want to do the vanilla bean thing. I want to do extract. And then some cinnamon, and I found this Mexican cinnamon sticks. Found these at a store. Anyways, I think it'll be really good. Just like my last beer I made, we have the exact same process of putting water in, boiling it for a long time, and I'll walk us through the process, hopefully walk you, and hope if you want to make a beer, and hopefully I'm inspiring you to make different kinds of things, beers, meads, anything like that. What we always need to start with, and because of what this kit has instructions with it, I'm going to follow the instructions to try and stay true to that, and it just kind of helps. So in the beginning of this, I love these instructions because they tell you, they have dates and stuff, so if you're a beginning brewer, you can hold on to this paper and write down your dates. But for me, I just put it all in my, my big composite of all my meads. Sanitize everything. I've sanitized all my stuff. I don't have my bucket out right now. It is being sanitized right now. And we'll of course use that for mixing everything. And then I'm using a pot, of course, which has been sanitized. Everything is sanitized. We are going to follow the steep to convert. And basically, I won't go through all of it because it's a lot of information. We are going to take and put these into our bags and then steep that for a while. So let's go ahead and put everything into our bags so we're ready to steep it. All right, we're going to go ahead and, like I said, put all of our grains and everything you see here into this bag. And this is going to be what we steep for roughly about 45 minutes. These bags are muslin bags. They are great for holding all of this stuff. And I'm just going to stretch it over here for now. It probably won't work, but we'll see how far I get. And then open these, and we'll pour them into each bag. One thing I noticed last time I did one is that I don't think it necessarily matters, but I think some of my ingredients really all stuck in certain spots on the muslin bag when I was steeping it. So I'm gonna try and like mix them a little better this time. So I'm gonna put these in together. This is the flaked oat and the crushed chocolate malt. About to lose it. It's okay. Okay. And then our last thing, if I can get it over this, goodness gracious, I don't have enough slack now. Our last thing is this crushed 2-row pail. So we're gonna go ahead and put this in as well. And this will just pour right in. Hopefully I don't get it everywhere. And I'm doing this all in the same container that I'm going to boil my water and stuff in, because ultimately I can get some of the residue and all the stuff from the bag in there. So now we have our bag that is full, and we are ready to go ahead and tie it off. So tying it off is super easy. We are going to get our water up, and what I really should have done first, honestly, is get my water going. I'm gonna go ahead and get a different bowl or something to put my grains on. So now we're going to take our grains, put this on the plate for the moment, just so they don't get everywhere. Take our container, and we're going to put water in it. We need at least 1.5 gallons of water for every pound of our wheat. So we're going to need, excuse me, did I say that right? For every 2 pounds of grain, we're going to need 1 gallon of water. So we have a total of about 3 pounds. So I'm going to go ahead and put like 2 gallons of water in. Then we need to get this up to roughly about 155 degrees. And that's where everything will steep at. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. The water boiling portion of this, and water heating up, takes a while, and I should have started it earlier, but I didn't. Ultimately, this will make us about 5 or 6 gallons of beer. In my last beer that I made, I got roughly about 40, it was like 50, maybe about 50 beer bottles out of, so a fair amount. I'm gonna go ahead and let that heat up to our 155 degrees. Then we will throw our we'll steep our grains in. All right, so it reached 155 degrees. I forgot to turn my mic back on. It's setting at 155 now. I put my grains in, and so they're just gonna sit in here and steep for the full 45 minutes, and I have my timer on right now. I'm gonna have to make sure this sits at 155 degrees consistently, which means monitoring the temperature. I've got 2 temperature gauges right here. This is my digital one, of course, and then this one is like a brewer's that I can watch consistently and see that, oh, it's setting at 100 and whatever. So right now on here it shows, my digital showing 155, and on here it is showing 155. So I can, I don't have to sit with a digital thermometer for the next forever. We're gonna wait 45 minutes, watch the temp. I'm not, of course, not gonna record all of that because that's kind of boring. And then when the 45 minutes is over, we'll pull this out. We'll go ahead and we'll rinse it out. We'll put some water through it, so that will allow us to get any of the extra stuff that's still in it. So I will see you in just a few minutes. All right, our 45 minutes are up. The next step is going to be to take this bag out. It has been at that 155 degrees. I watched it the entire time, basically sat here. and just taking care of it. So now I need to get this, which is kind of heavy and very hot. Ow. I'm not going to keep the bag. So what we're going to do, because it's very heavy, there's a lot of stuff in it, we're going to try and let some of this drip out first. And then we're going to take, which is probably not the best way to do it, I've got some warm water over to my left. You can't really see. We're going to rinse through this. So let's do that real fast. We're going to rinse through and hopefully get a lot of the stuff that was in there out. Okay, I'm going to let this drip for one more second, and then we're going to put it into this pot to basically just throw away. I don't have any use for it. All right, I'm going to put this in here. It's dripped as much as it needs to. Now we need to take our different, on the packet it says DME and like LME, and that just basically means our extracts. So what we're looking at here are this is like a dried dark malt extract. We're going to go ahead and add this into here, and we're going to work to get it to a boil. So I'll go ahead and start putting it on high so it'll kind of work its way up to our boil. We're going to open this up and pour our malt extracts in, both of them, and I'll show you right now. This is the dried or the dark that's going to go in. In a moment we will put the light malt extract into here, and we will also put our it's called Maltodextrin. That will go in as well. So here's the dried. I'm getting it everywhere, unfortunately. Okay, the light is actually in the form of it's a liquid, so it's a little easier to handle, and it just pours right in. This one's pretty easy, and the thing with this is we don't want it to basically get stuck at the bottom, so we're going to end up stirring this, and we're going to stir starting now, get this to a boil. So it's starting to heat up more. This will boil in a moment for an hour with the malt extracts in, both the dried and the liquid. And then we're also going to put these hops in. So let me go ahead and stir this a little bit. Hopefully get all of our malt extract out that we can. All right, got everything I could out of the light. We're now going to add the maltodextrin. Again, this is all in this Brewer Best kit, which is really simple, really easy to use, and I highly recommend if you're looking to make a beer, at least for the first time, until you get used to it, to try something like this, because it just gives you everything you need. You don't have to worry too much. You can go buy all the ingredients to make your own without having this stuff, but in my opinion, this is just really simple, really easy to use. We're stirring this in, the maltodextrin. I don't have to monitor the temperature as much at this point because during the boil stage it's really just a rolling boil. So nothing too crazy, but just some stuff, some movement basically. Okay. And the very last thing before we start our hour time, these are Dorado goodness, pellets. And we're going to add these in as well. Only ½ an ounce, so just a little bit. Which, this is where we start to get that extra, that beer. Of course the malt and all that stuff is beery, but this is the top of the top of it all for our beer flavor. Okay. Now I'm going to stir just a little bit. Go ahead and start my timer for an hour, and because this is pretty close to a boil, and we're gonna let it go. So I will, unless something disastrous happens, I will just be back in about an hour whenever this is done. All right, so this is has finished. It's boiling. It's been boiling for an hour, and I will say, and I will admit that I had a little boil over in the beginning because I walked away for a second. Next thing I knew, it had boiled over some. So hopefully that didn't affect anything too greatly. We need to let this go ahead and cool. And when it cools down quite a bit, we will be able to put it into a different container. But also what I want to do, there's a lot of stuff that's floating around in here, and I want to get as little of the sediment as possible. So all the stuff at the bottom you can't see right now, I don't want to get inside my my fermenter. So with some time and some just waiting in general as it cools down, that stuff will fall down. So I will be back in a little bit when this has cooled down more, and then we will move it over into a new container. I'll also mention that a quick way to cool this down if you're making a beer is to use ice, and then like your sink, put ice in your sink and then put this in. I unfortunately did not plan that far ahead, so this is just going to sit as it is, which means that it's going to take a while to cool down. It probably won't cool down completely. What I'll end up doing is putting normal water with it to help it cool down with everything. But my big thing for waiting to put it into a new container, into my plastic fermenter, is the stuff, allowing it to fall down a little bit. So I'll probably be back in 30 to 45 minutes. Hopefully that will bring that temperature down quite a bit. All right, so this has been sitting for a while. It's not completely cooled, to be honest, and I am at a time constraint in that I can't wait 5 or 6 hours because it's late at night. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my plastic fermenter, and we're going to put, I'm going to leave this right here, we're going to put, and I've actually tried to get the water a little cooler, so I'm going to take my water, which is basically equaling out to trying to get closer to that 5-gallon mark, because I have about 2.5 really gallons of water in the beer, or really the in here right now what we've boiled. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in. This is about 2 more gallons. I have kind of lost a little bit of my through the boiling process. Basically, you know, of course it boils and then condensation and you lose some, and that's just how it is. So I'm going to put in probably the 2 gallons that I had approximated, and then maybe just a little bit more to compensate for what I've lost. But in order for me to move this over, it's really simple. I'm going to use my, of course, sanitized equipment. This is a auto siphon, and I'm going, hopefully the everything that is not what we want has landed at the bottom, and there won't be a lot of sediment. The goal is to try and get as little sediment as possible, because that of course just means more racking in the future. So this is still warm, like I said, it'll be fine for going through the auto siphon, but we're going to move it into here, as you can see, and my camera's focusing. Ooh. You can kind of see down here. I'm going to move all of this over, and then in a moment we will, I'll talk about the next steps. So I'll move this over real fast. All right, so here's what I have left in, this is the pot I was brewing in. This is all the extra like sediment-y things, and honestly, there's stuff could have settled more, but like I said, I didn't have a lot of time. Here's what we have left in here. I have my hydrometer in because I'm taking a quick gravity reading. My gravity reading shows that we are at around 0.55, which on our hydrometer means that we are looking at relative to close to 7%. On our informational packet, we see the original gravity on this is, we're actually really close, is about 1.056 to 1.064. So we are like on the bottom end of the original gravity that this states, which is, I mean, still okay. I don't exactly want to put more I don't want to put any honey in or anything. I want to keep this a true beer because I made a braggot, but I want to make this a true beer. And then of course I'll make more braggots in the future. So now the next step is I can find my thermometer. Let's see what we're at temperature wise. It's probably still too hot for us to put, yeah, we're in the 90s, 94, 95. We're still too hot to put our yeast in, which is okay because what I'm gonna do is take and put a lid on this and then we're gonna let it sit, and I'll put in the yeast tomorrow, and then it should be ready to start fermenting at that point. All right, so I will also mention in this moment that I have my extra ingredients to make it the Oatmeal Raisin Stout, that it's going to be the oatmeal raisin parts what I really want to focus on. So obviously we have the oat idea coming from the beer, but I wanted to, of course, enhance that and go further with this. And so I'm going to put quite a bit of raisins in. Whenever I put the yeast in, I'm going to put, because this is 2 pounds, I plan to use, honestly, all 2 pounds. I'll probably put about a half a pound in the primary with everything. And that's the only thing in the primary that I want to put. I'm not going to put any cinnamon sticks. I'm not going to put any vanilla. It's just the raisins. And they'll act as a nutrient, quote, but really I want to try and use it as a flavor. Now, I don't know how well raisins impart their flavor. I'm thinking in massive quantities that they really impart flavor, but we'll find out pretty quickly, frankly. So the next step, and I'll show this in this next clip, is me putting in the yeast after it has all settled, everything has settled down and it's cooled down to a good enough temperature for us to be able to pitch the yeast. All right, it is time to go ahead and put in our yeast. So we're using this Windsor British style beer yeast, and I don't know the exact possible ABV on this. I haven't looked it up. I should have. However, normally these get to around 8 to 9%. We're only looking at a really 5.5 to 6% beer currently. So we're just going to sprinkle this on top really simply. I don't need to try and like rehydrate the beer yeast. Most of the time when you make beers, you are literally just throwing the stuff on top, throwing the yeast on top. So that's what we're going to do here. So here we go, or I'm sprinkling it on top. And this will hopefully start to be active in, 10 to 12 hours, we'll see. I'm also going to put in a pound of raisins. Now I've already weighed this out, tared out the scale, and then put my pound in of raisins. And this is not for nutrients. This is hopefully going to be for getting the raisin taste for the oatmeal raisin cookie. So I'm just going to throw these in as well, and without splashing like crazy, a little bit. That's probably not a ton enough, or not enough to really impart flavor. We're going to find out. I'll do most of my flavor profiling in the secondary. So now we need to go ahead and stir it up. And of course, I always use this big, like a plastic spoon. And our hope is to do 2 things. Stir, of course, the yeast into everything, but then we're also trying to add just a little oxygen in so that the yeast have something to use in the moment. And I'm very content with that right now. If it's still struggling to get going, I will, of course, add some more oxygen in, and that will hopefully propel it to do what it needs. Normally, I would finish the video here, but I want to give an update on its fermentation and to show you that it is fermenting. So I'll be back in just a little bit with an update with hopefully some fermentation. I should also mention that I'm going to keep this in my same just room temp area, so I keep my house around 70-ish. So this will sit at about 70, and I think that's a good fermentation range for this yeast. And if it's not, then I can use my temperature controlled freezer here to also manipulate things, but I think this will be fine for this beer. All right, we are 24 hours into, or after putting in the yeast. And you can see that the fermentation has definitely started, and it will probably be a quick fermentation, frankly. You can see all the bubbles coming up. So I'll probably degas this tonight just to see if I can help it out some. But this is how it's going to sit until fermentation is done. The raisins are on top. They've already kind of started to swell back up into grapes. And my hope is that they will provide some flavor. And of course, like many people think, and it kind of is true, they'll provide some nutrients. So this is going to sit like this for a little bit. And I, of course, will take care of it, degas it, and keep it stored well. And just put the lid back on. Hopefully it will run into zero problems and we will have a easy, quick fermentation. So that is the end of this part. All right, so that's the end of this video. Basically, it's gonna sit like I said, and hopefully it'll take about maybe a week to ferment through. I'll let it sit for a couple days. And then we get to start to try and add in the extra ingredients to try and make it taste like our oatmeal raisin cookie that we're desiring. It's going to be a low ABV beer, and that's okay. It's like a 5.5–6%. And I am a fan of big beers, big ABV beers, but I do think it's nice to have a refreshing, just easy drink, and especially one that hopefully will turn out sweet and have the oat flavor and everything that I want in that oatmeal raisin cookie idea. So I'm excited for this, and I hope you guys are too. Let me know what you think down below. Check out all my links. We have a Facebook page where we get to talk about making mead and just have a great mead community. That is facebook.com/manmademeadery. There is Patreon where you can help support me, and for as little as $2 a month, you can get access to early content and live streams and some various other things. Then of course I have a website, manmademead.com, with some Amazon links where you can find basically stuff that I use, and if you order through that Amazon affiliate link, it actually supports me as well. So that's very nice. And then last but not least, really just like the video, subscribe. And what I found recently in some of my videos, some people are saying that they aren't seeing them in the sub box. And so if you will just hit that bell icon, that will notify you whenever, hey, Man-Made Mead is uploaded. And that will help us continue to keep the channel going, but also it's just nice to see that you guys are watching. And so I appreciate getting to make content for you guys. And hopefully that content is being seen and not being kind of stopped by YouTube. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching. Cheers.